Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a question that, let's be honest, it keeps so many new parents up at night. Maybe even more than the baby does sometimes. How much should my newborn actually be eating? It's just this huge source of anxiety, right? Because these tiny little humans, adorable as they are, they can't exactly tell us what they need in words. So you're left guessing, maybe worrying a bit, comparing. We're going to cut through that noise today. Think of this deep dive as like your shortcut to clarity. We've got expert guidance, practical advice, really aiming to demystify newborn feeding and help you feel, well, confident, and hopefully enjoy those moments more.
Absolutely. And that confidence, it's just so vital. It's why we're focusing on this for you, the learner. Because understanding your newborn's nutritional needs, it's way more than just filling a tiny tummy. It's fundamental for their growth, their brain development, even how they learn to self-regulate early on. And what's really fascinating, though sometimes, a bit overwhelming, is that feeding isn't some rigid formula. It's not one size fits all. Our goal today is really to empower you, give you those evidence-based insights so you can read your baby's signals and feel reassured on this whole feeding journey.
Exactly. Okay, so let's unpack this. We've gathered some really solid sources, including a pretty comprehensive newborn feeding guide for new moms that digs right into these questions. We'll look at both breastfeeding and formula feeding approaches. We're going to decode those crucial hunger and fullness cues, which, apply no matter how you're feeding. And maybe most importantly, we'll talk about when it's definitely time to reach out for professional advice. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with breastfed newborns. The main advice you hear is feeding on demand, which sounds simple, but if you're used to schedules, it can feel a bit chaotic. What are the real benefits of this method, especially for getting breastfeeding established?
Yeah, on demand can definitely sound unstructured at first glance. But the key thing to grasp is it's not just a suggestion. It's a biological system, a really elegant one, actually. Feeding on demand basically means you nurse whenever your baby shows those early signs of hunger. You're not watching the clock. And the huge benefit, it's absolutely essential for the mother's body to figure out how much milk to make. Your baby's essentially sending signals, placing an order, and your body responds by adjusting production to meet that specific need. Boosting supply during a growth spurt or just maintaining it day to day. It's a perfect feedback loop.
That makes a lot of sense. Baby needs driving the supply. But okay, understanding on demand is one thing. For a parent who's barely sleeping, frequently, it can sound kind of scary. What does that actually look like in those first few weeks? Are we talking constant feeding? Every couple of hours? What about overnight?
That's a really practical question because frequently can feel vague. So in the first few weeks, most breastfed newborns feed pretty often. We're typically talking 8 to 12 times in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
Yeah, which does break down to roughly every 2 to 3 hours. And that's around the clock. So for anyone dreaming of 8 straight hours of sleep right away, probably not going to happen just yet.
Right.
And those night feedings, they're really important. A newborn stomach is tiny, like cherry-sized at birth. It empties fast. Plus, the hormones that drive milk production, like prolactin, often peak overnight. So those night feeds are super effective for building supply.
All right. This next thing. This is where I think a lot of parents get really confused, maybe even worried. Cluster feeding. It sounds intense. What exactly is cluster feeding, and should parents be concerned?
Cluster feeding. Yeah, it often catches parents by surprise. It's basically when your baby wants to nurse very, very frequently for several hours in a row, often in bursts.
Like back to back?
Pretty much, almost like a little feeding marathon. It commonly happens in the evenings or, like we mentioned, during growth spurts. Now, it can definitely be tiring for mom, no question, but it's totally normal. And actually, it's really effective. Think about those growth spurts. It's not just about getting bigger. There's intense development happening, brain, body, everything. So the baby is essentially power ordering more milk, stimulating your body to ramp up production to meet that upcoming need. It's nature's way.
Okay, explaining it like that helps a lot. It's got a purpose. But it brings up that classic breastfeeding worry. If you can't see the ounces going in, how do you really know? How do you know your baby's actually getting enough milk? It feels like you need a lot of faith. What are the concrete signs parents should watch for?
That's such a common and valid concern. And thankfully, your baby gives you really clear signals. You just need to know what to look for. The main things, much more reliable than clock watching or trying to guess volume, are these. First, diapers. By day 5, you should be seeing at least 6 to 8 properly wet diapers every 24 hours. That shows good hydration, good intake.
Okay, 6 to 8 wet ones. Got it.
Second, weight gain. After that initial normal drop right after birth, you want to see steady weight gain. Your pediatrician tracks this closely. And third, just observe your baby. After a feed, do they seem relaxed, kind of sleepy maybe? Are their hands unclenched, body loose, content?
Like the milk drunk look.
Exactly. That relaxed, satisfied state, those are all really strong signs that they're getting what they need. It should be reassuring.
And a huge piece of making sure they get that milk effectively and that it's comfortable for mom is the latch, right? What does a good latch actually look and feel like?
Oh, absolutely crucial. A good latch isn't just about preventing pain, though that's important. It's really about ensuring efficient milk transfer, making sure the baby gets everything they need, including that richer hind milk. So indicators of a good latch: baby's mouth should be open really wide, like they're yawning onto the breast. They should take in a good portion of the areola, the darker area, not just the nipple tip. Lips flared out, kind of like fish lips.
Okay.
And you might hear audible swallowing, sometimes like a soft K or coo sound. Not clicking noises. That often means the latch is shallow. And for the mother, while the initial moments might feel like a strong pull, it shouldn't be sharply painful throughout the feed. A good latch makes all the difference.
Okay, so that paints a clear picture for breastfed babies, that intuitive, on-demand world. Now, let's switch gears. For parents using formula, whether by choice or necessity, the experience is often a bit different. It feels more measurable, which can be reassuring in its own way. So, what are the general guidelines here? Where do parents start with formula feeding?
Right. With formula, you do have that visual ounces, which many parents find helpful as a general starting point. Those very first few days, newborns usually take small amounts, maybe 1 to 2 ounces. That's about 30 to 60 milliliters every 2 to 3 hours. Then as they get into that first month, it typically increases, maybe 2 to 4 ounces or 60 to 120 milliliters. And the timing might space out a little to every 3 to 4 hours. A really important safety note, though.
Yeah.
Unless your pediatrician specifically tells you otherwise, you generally shouldn't exceed 32 ounces or about 950 milliliters in a 24-hour period.
Okay, that's a key maximum to keep in mind.
Yeah, overfeeding can cause tummy upset and other issues, so we want to avoid that.
That general guidance is useful. But our source material, it really breaks it down even further by age and weight. Could you walk us through the typical pattern of formula intake? How does it tend to increase over those first couple of months?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how quickly their capacity grows. So that first week, 0 to 1 week old, tiny amounts, 1 to 2 ounces per feed, but frequent, like 8 to 12 times a day still.
Still pretty frequent then.
Definitely. Then weeks 1 to 2, you might see a little jump to 2 to 3 ounces per feed. Maybe the frequency drops just slightly to 8 to 10 feedings a day. By weeks 2 to 4, they're often taking 2 to 4 ounces, and maybe now it's more like 6 to 8 feeds per day, starting to stretch out a bit.
Right.
And then by the time they're 1 to 2 months old, you can see them taking 4 to 5 ounces per feed, maybe 6 or 7 times a day. These are averages, of course. Every baby's different. But it gives you a general roadmap of what to expect volume-wise.
That's super helpful for parents trying to get a sense of things. Okay, beyond just the amounts, what about preparing the formula safely? And the actual bottle feeding technique. This seems like an area where getting it right is really crucial for safety and comfort.
Absolute paramount. Precision and hygiene are key here. First, always use the exact water-to-powder ratio that's on the formula tin. Don't guess. Too much water dilutes the nutrients. Too little can strain their kidneys and cause dehydration. So follow the instructions exactly.
Okay, exact measurements.
Yes. And always use safe water. For young infants, especially under 3 months, that usually means boiling fresh tap water and letting it cool to the right temperature before mixing. Check your local guidelines. Warming the bottle. Best way is to stand it in a bowl of warm water. Never, ever use a microwave.
Why no microwave?
It creates hot spots, pockets of scalding liquid that can seriously burn a baby's mouth and throat. Just not worth the risk. Then, for feeding technique, hold the baby semi-upright, support their head and neck, don't feed them lying flat, and we really recommend paced bottle feeding.
Paced bottle feeding? What's that?
Instead of tilting the bottle way up so milk just pours out, you hold it more horizontally. Just enough tilt so the nipple is full of milk, but the baby has to actively suck to get it, more like breastfeeding. It lets them control the flow, pause when they need to, breathe, helps prevent gulping air and overfeeding.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. More control for the baby.
Exactly.
Oh.
And always remember to burp them. Gently, partway through the feed, and again at the end. Helps get rid of any swallowed air.
Got it. And just really quickly, for parents looking at the shelves, there seem to be different types of formula. What are the main ones?
Yeah, the main categories are pretty straightforward. You've got ready to feed, which is just pour and serve. Super convenient, especially for out and about, but it's the most expensive. Then there's liquid concentrate. You have to mix that with an equal amount of water. kind of a middle ground on cost and convenience. And then the most common is powdered formula. You mix the scoop of powder with water. It's usually the most budget-friendly, but requires that careful, precise preparation we just talked about.
Okay, perfect. So whether we're talking breast milk or formula, the common thread is understanding the baby's signals. Let's talk about that universal baby language, hunger and fullness cues. What are those earliest, maybe subtle signs that a baby is starting to get hungry before the crying starts?
Right. Learning this baby language is so key. And yes, they tell us things long before they cry. Early hunger cues are your best time to start a feed. It makes things calmer, easier. Look for rooting. That's when they turn their head, mouth open, searching, especially if you stroke their cheek.
Like they're looking for the nipple or bottle.
Exactly. They might also start sucking on their fists, fingers, or lips, maybe making little smacking sounds. Or just becoming a bit more alert, maybe restless, a little bit fussy. Those are the gentle nudges. Hey, thinking about food soon.
And if parents miss those early signs, or maybe they're busy for a minute, what happens next? What does hunger look like then?
If those early cues aren't met, the baby will usually escalate their signals. Makes sense, right? They need to get your attention. They might start moving their arms and legs more actively, getting tense, fussiness increases, and then eventually comes the crying. It's important for parents to know that crying is actually a late sign of hunger.
Huh. Okay. So ideally, feed before the tears start.
Yes, if you can. Once a baby is really worked up and crying hard, they can sometimes struggle to latch properly or coordinate sucking and swallowing. It can make the feed more stressful for everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. Respond early, if possible. Now, on the other end of the feed, how do you know when they're done, when they're satisfied? Because I can imagine, especially maybe with a bottle, parents might want them to finish every last drop.
That's a really common instinct. Must finish the bottle.
Yeah.
But learning to trust your baby's fullness cues is just as important as recognizing hunger. It helps prevent overfeeding. So signs they're full. They'll often naturally turn their head away from the breast or bottle, maybe actively push it away. Their body language changes. Hands relax, open up instead of being clenched fists. Their whole body might seem kind of loose and relaxed.
That milk drunk look again.
Exactly. And very often they'll just fall asleep during or right after the feed. That's a pretty clear signal. Tank is full, shutting down now. Trust these signs. Don't push them to take more if they're clearly signaling they're done, even if there's milk left. Forcing it can lead to discomfort, spitting up, maybe even contribute to excessive weight gain down the line. It also overrides their natural ability to regulate their own intake. They really do know when they've had enough.
Okay, trust the baby's cues, hunger, and fullness. That seems to be a core message. But we know sometimes, despite doing everything right, challenges pop up. It's just part of parenting. When should parents move beyond trying to troubleshoot themselves and actually seek professional help? What are the clear red flags?
Great question. Knowing when to call for backup is crucial. It's always better to ask if you're concerned. Definitely contact your pediatrician or a lactation consultant if you see any significant signs of dehydration. That means things like fewer than 6 wet diapers a day after that first week, a consistently dry mouth, no tears when crying, or a sunken soft spot, the fontanelle, on their head.
Okay, dehydration signs are serious.
Very serious. Also, poor weight gain. If your baby isn't regaining their birth weight by about 2 weeks, or if the weight gain is consistently slow according to your pediatrician's charts, that needs checking out. For breastfeeding moms, if there's persistent difficulty with latching or ongoing significant nipple pain despite trying different techniques, a lactation consultant can be a lifesaver. And finally, any frequent forceful vomiting, not just normal spit up or persistent diarrhea, or if your baby consistently refuses to feed or seems unusually lethargic, those all warrant an immediate call to the doctor.
That's a really clear list. Super helpful. And beyond their own doctor or lactation consultant, what are some other trusted resources parents can turn to for reliable information and support?
Yeah, having good resources is key. Your pediatrician is always your primary resource for overall health, growth, and nutrition questions. For breastfeeding specifically, certified lactation consultants, IBCLCs, offer expert hands-on help. There are also wonderful peer support organizations like the Lesh League International. They offer meetings, online support, and great information based on decades of experience. And for trusted, evidence-based guidelines on all things baby care, including feeding, the American Academy of Pediatrics AAP website is an excellent resource.
Perfect. So wrapping this up, This deep dive really underscores that feeding a newborn, whether you choose breast or bottle, it's a dance. It's a learning process for both the parent and the baby. The big takeaway seems to be about responsive feeding, tuning into those cues, trusting them, and keeping an eye on those reliable indicators, the wet diapers, the steady weight gain, and just how content your baby seems. That offers real reassurance.
Absolutely. And please remember, you are definitely not alone in this. If you have questions, if you hit a rough patch, reach out. Professional support is there for a reason, and it's encouraged. By staying responsive, staying informed, and getting help when you need it, you really can navigate this confidently and nurture your baby's amazing growth and well-being. It really is about building that connection, that trust, right from the start, feed by feed.
And, thinking about it, this deep dive really highlights something quite profound. Feeding isn't just about calories and ounces, is it? It's one of the very first ways we communicate intimately with our babies. What's truly fascinating, I think, is just how much they tell us long before they have words if we just learn how to listen. That whole silent dialogue, the rooting, the turning away, the sleepy sighs, it's the foundation of this incredible bond that just keeps developing. It's quite something to think about.